Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning. It's Karen Hilton from the Rock Your Vision Masterclass community and TAP Executive Coaching. Welcome to Monday Morning Jumpstart. Okay, how was your weekend? What did you do? Did you conquer mountains or did you sleep? I did a little bit of both, if I'm honest. But you know what? It was a good weekend. I had an opportunity to work in my garden, which y'all know I absolutely love. And I had an opportunity to hear once again one of our special guests who did an amazing sermon. We'll talk about all of that later, and I'll have a chance to introduce him. But I just want to say good morning. It is Monday, and y'all know how I feel about Mondays. It's an opportunity to have a wet, clean slate. So come on, you know how we do it, y'all. I do the same thing every Monday. You should know better by now. Go ahead and get your tea, your coffee, whatever it is, because we're about to go in. We have a monster panel this morning, and I'm going to get an opportunity to introduce them and have them introduce themselves. But yeah, go ahead, pop it in the comments. What'd you do this weekend? We want to know. We want a little peek inside your life. And yeah, we're going to get right to it. Now, for those of you that don't know, we are the Rock Your Vision Masterclass community. If you are new to this community, I want to say welcome. We are super excited to have you. If you are a long timer, then welcome back home. We've got a lot to talk about this weekend. We've got a lot in the works, a lot going on in the Rock Your Vision Masterclass community. And you know what? When we started the year, we were large and in charge. Our theme, which we have every year, was play bigger. And we were excited about it. We had a plan. We had thoughts. We had dreams and visions. I mean, we were going after it. And you know what? And then Corona hit and we had to figure it all out. And guess what? We did. Because that's what we do. We don't have any choice. And this is the way I say it. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. That means you may have to take a minute and figure it out, but ultimately, we're going to do that. We're going to do it together. And this is where we do it in a positive and productive way. We focus on 3 pillars: get focused, connect to your purpose, and develop the perspective that you're going to need to do life on your own terms. So with that, I'm just going to pop into the live stream and just welcome everybody. Melissa Hernandez. Woo! Good morning, girl. I got your note. Thank you so much. I am so glad that you are back here with us. We're glad to see you. Akila Charlene. Hey, Coach Akila. Good to see you in here. Christy Kent. Influencers in the house. Christy Kent is a special young lady. She's special to me and Pastor Andy. We're glad to have you, Christy. We got some good stuff to talk about. Vanessa Aliaga, good morning. Vanessa is our operations manager, and she's amazing. Y'all can't have her, but I do share her from time to time. And we have Lawrence Henderson. Oh, wait, hold on a second. We got one more coming in. There he is. Hey, Lawrence, how you doing? You got your coffee, dude?
I got my coffee. I was up early, y'all.
Okay. All right. Let's see who else. Let's see. Akila says this weekend she got fabulous new highlights. I saw you, girl. I saw you on social media, killing the game. She hung out with a girlfriend. She made some seasoning and had client prospect meetings. Can we talk about playing bigger, rocking our vision? She is absolutely doing it. Akila is one of our superstars. Love her. She's got her own thing going on. And one of these days, we're going to have her back on the show. Hold on a second. Sarah Fruman said she got highlights too. I missed the memo somehow. We got to work on our hair game. Okay, guys, we'll have you talk about that later. Anyway, hey, we got Coach Tamiko Drummond in here. She is the brand success coach. Hey, girl. Hey, what's going on? Glad to have you in here. We're talking about the imposter syndrome this morning, you guys. I am so excited about this topic. And so I am going to let my panel introduce themselves, and I'm going to give you a little backstory on them. But in just a second, hold on one second. I'm going to try to switch this around because our fabulous Pastor Andy was stuck behind the the logo there. That would not have been
I was
a good
enjoying
thing.
hiding. I thought this was going to be good. I was just going to jump out if I had something good to say. I was like, ah.
Oh, right. Well, listen, I want to just welcome in my monster panel this morning. You guys, these are heavy hitters. If you don't know them, you're about to know them. And I am so excited to have each one of them. They made space in their busy schedules for little old us. And so I want you to give them a great big Rock Your Vision welcome. I'm going to start with none other than my pastor, my roadie, my tribe, Pastor Andy Smith. Hey, Pastor Andy.
Hey, good morning, Karen. Thank you so much for having me on this
You
morning.
bet.
It is always fun to be on here with you. I love the topics and the enrichment we all get from it.
Well, thank you so much. I am so excited that you're here. You have just a crazy schedule, but you are our unofficial pastor. I may have forgotten to tell you that. And so
Well,
you
that's
are
an honor.
anytime on any topic. Christy Kent says, "Hey, Pastor Andy, we're glad to have you. Listen, tell us a little bit about what you do and where you do it."
Yeah, so Leslie and I, my wife, we pastor here in Kennesaw, Georgia. And it's been really fun. About 2.5 years ago, we planted a work here and just met some of the most incredible people. And what I love best about what we do is we have a tribe, as you so well spoke that earlier, of a multicultural church that truly reflects what I think should be the illustration to the world, how we were created to interact, how we were created to live.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I get the opportunity to do some stuff with some incredible leaders from around the community that we can all just kind of run harder, faster in the way we were designed to do that, to have maximum impact on the community.
Yeah. I remember the first time I walked into Influencers, I had not such a great experience, and I was really looking for a place that was super diverse and, wasn't boring. And the very first service I walked into, they had like this wicked band, and the kids, all of the young people were down front, and they literally cracked the floor. They were
Yeah.
moshing so hard. Like we all heard it and we were like, what just happened?
Yeah, I remember that. It was a little bit nerve-wracking.
I was like, I'm home.
It was fun. It was fun.
Anyway, we're glad to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And then we have one of my besties in the whole world. She is an amazing executive coach, HR leader. She's a wife, she's a mom, and she's a farmer. I'm going to let her tell her story. We got Kim Dudash in the house. Hey, Kim.
Thank you, Karen. I'm so honored to be here with you guys this morning, and I'm so looking forward to it. And you're right, Monday is the day of the week that we have to start afresh and just hit the ground running. So I appreciate you inviting me to be a part of this morning, of Monday Morning Jumpstart. But yeah, I am Kim Dudash, and I am the founder of Dudash Executive Coaching. And I work with leaders to help them identify the things that are holding them back. One of those is imposter syndrome. So I'm excited about this subject this morning. I live in beautiful East Tennessee at the base of the Smoky Mountains. And so, yeah, the other side of my life, which is as important, equally important, is that my husband and I, we co-own and operate Dudash Farms. And we raise and sell grass-fed beef and pork. So, yeah, during this time of COVID-19 and pandemic and quarantine, it's been really interesting and it's been a lot of fun. So yeah, it's so my life is extremes, but I absolutely love it. And there are many times when I have felt that imposter syndrome feeling and have had to work through that, farmer, executive coach. Those are two extremes. But again, happy to be here with everyone on this panel and looking forward to the conversation. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here. We're excited to hear your thoughts on this. I happen to have kind of inside knowledge on your passion around this topic. So I'm super interested to hear your contributions. Thank you for being here. And then we have none other than Mr. Lawrence Henderson. Lawrence and I have, I guess, been stalking each other for a while. And I would see his stuff and I'd be like, who is this guy? Like, he has such presence and he's an incredible speaker. And everybody seems to know who he is. Like everywhere I go, it's like, Lawrence Henderson. I'm like, Lawrence too? Okay. Hey, Lawrence, we're glad to have you, buddy.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen, for having me back. And I would like to take credit for that, but I have to give credit where credit is due to Akila. So Coach Akila out there, she told me to get on my game when I first transitioned out of the military 5 years ago. So I took those notes and I ran with them. But good morning, everyone. Lawrence Henderson. I am the Chief Learning Officer, or Coach Henderson, or whatever you want to call me, because I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, and I'm a facilitator of awesomeness. And I do it for organizations and individuals who, based on our topic today, just feel a little stuck. They don't know which direction they're going. They don't know how to process information. And for myself, I tell people I'm the first coaching client that I have, and I have to work through this topic constantly, right? Whether it's a bigger contract or another speaking engagement or whatever it is. So again, like anything else, renewing our minds daily to the identity, our true identity of what we are and what we should be doing. And so I'm excited to be here with you all today. So thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you. And thank you for making time for us, Lawrence, this morning. And then I want to introduce to you, I saved the best for last. He is a boss people manager. I've had the opportunity, Kim and I actually have had the opportunity to get to know this guy. And everything he says, I want to know more of. But I guess more importantly, every time I heard him speak, this was earlier in the year that we met him in April, every time I would hear him speak, he was either making pizza, making sourdough bread, or drinking a beer, or some combination of all three. And I was like, I like this guy. But in addition to that, he would say things that deeply resonated with me when it came to all things leadership. And I'm like, I have got to get to know this guy better. And so I want to introduce to you none other than Mr. Jeff Bull. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, everybody. How's it going?
Good. We're glad you're here.
I'm super stoked to be here. It's a really good way to wake up on Monday morning for sure.
Yeah. And now I have to say that you are joining us at before the chickens. The chickens haven't gotten up yet. You're in California. So it's like, I don't know, like super, super early there.
That's all right. My two little dogs on the bed this morning both kind of looked up at me. They're like 18 and 19 years old. They both looked at me like, what are you doing? Pretty good indication that it was up a little early.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? Tell us who you are, what your life looks like.
Absolutely. So Jeff Bull, professionally, I'm an engineering manager for Cisco Systems. So the big IT company. And as part of that role, Today, I help mentor and coach a lot of younger and up-and-coming engineers at Cisco, but also other people too who are just trying to find their way in this massive corporate machine that's nearly 80,000 people globally. And then aside from that, I'm working heavily to just kind of expand outside of that to try to help more folks in IT in the Bay Area figure out how to take and embrace their own passions and bring that into the corporate world so they can feel like they're really making a true difference.
Wow. Amazing. So it's been so fun to hear Jeff, kind of his thoughts on what it means to get outside of your comfort zone, what it means to deal with the imposter syndrome. So again, this is just right where I live right now. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks to everybody for joining us in the live stream. Listen, if you are watching us right now, I need you to do us a couple favors because we want to get this kind of stream. We want it to go around the world. Let's make it go viral, okay? Because I think there are some important things that people need to know about the imposter syndrome. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but do me a favor and just go ahead and share this in your stream with your network. You can, if you're watching it in Facebook, you can just hit the share button or the watch party button. and let your tribe know that we're talking about this amazing topic. We want you to participate in that way, but we also want you to pop in your comments. I don't know anybody who at some point hasn't dealt with the imposter syndrome. And depending on, who you talk to, we call it different things. But we want to get some clarity about it. But more importantly, we want to talk about, what do you do about it, right? It's such a common problem. We can talk about it and define it all day long. What do we do about it? And especially, what do we do about it now? So again, if you're watching, don't ghost us. Go ahead and click on the video and join us in the live stream. Let us know you're here. We are super glad to have you. All right. Well, listen, let's go ahead and get into it. I would love to just start with this question. What has been your experience with the imposter syndrome? I'm going to just kind of open it up. And I'll tell you that as a successful business owner, as a kind of career executive myself, the imposter syndrome has been something that I've dealt with for a very long time. In fact, let's see, yesterday, like the imposter syndrome is so real, but it's not something that we really talk a lot about because, when we're kind of raised, when we, get to school, we're taught to, hold your head up high and do all of these things. We're kind of taught to put on masks. And that's not a cop-out. That's just true, because we got to learn how to function, right? We got to learn how to show up in the environments that we're in. But then, you go to school and you've got to compete with people. And I don't know about you, but when I went to school, when I went to post-secondary education, or maybe you dropped right into the workforce, you got to hold your head up and compete with all of these people who've done all these different things, right? You guys are shaking your head. You know what I'm talking about. So you got to figure out how to deal with things. So again, more masks, right? Whether we feel like it or not. But somewhere in the back of our psyche, I think, is always this kind of, we call them gremlins in coaching, where something sits on your shoulder and goes, now you remember what happened the last time you spoke up. We shouldn't do that again. Right? Can I get an amen? Come on, y'all. I mean, this is incredibly real. So that's been my experience with the imposter syndrome. And I could go on all day. Like I said, I just had an episode yesterday. But you guys on the panel, talk to us about the imposter syndrome. If you're following along on live stream, what's been your experience with imposter syndrome? Share with us in the comments if you feel comfortable. I'm going to start with Pastor Andy Smith.
Well, I think the interesting thing about the imposter syndrome is we all live with two sides of ourselves that very few people get to see. We see what we present, and we have to present, and then we go home to ourselves and see us in our most raw, real state. And I think there's a tension to reconcile the two, because we all have a way of evaluating others in their presented state while seeing ourselves in our most vulnerable state. So it's easy to walk away from a keynote speech and people come up and go, man,
right,
that was amazing. And, and we get a lot of affirmation, and then we get in the car and we ride down the road and we get home and we're like, man, if you could see me now, you wouldn't thought that speech was so amazing. So there's this tension where we are able to live with a lot of grace for others at times, and yet hold ourselves with a lot of justice and void of that grace. And I think that's why, if we're not careful, for me, if we're not careful, we'll miss the fact that I am human like everybody else that I'm speaking to, that I'm trying to lead, that I'm trying to help overcome. And I love, Lawrence, what you said, and I kind of jotted that down. So I promise I'll probably use it at some point. But we got to remember, part of our leading is first leading ourselves, or I think the way you said it was coaching ourselves. And that's constantly, and unless we continue that rawness, then we will not be able to keep the imposter syndrome at bay.
That is so good. Now, Pastor Andy, you've been on some of the biggest stages known to man. You travel in circles with really influential people. You have multiple degrees. People look to you for advice and wisdom and counsel on leadership and church growth and all of these things. Certainly, you don't deal with the imposter syndrome, right?
Oh man, yeah, every day, and I think it's because I realize something is I'm really good at accomplishing a task, but when you put the dynamic of people involved, people are organic. In that organic, organism, we all have so many different facets of psychology, so many facets of who we are, that I realize that I can't, and this is something I'm discovering even more, Karen, which is why I think this imposter syndrome is always a tough adversary to crack, is one size doesn't always fit all. So I'm having to constantly be a learner, and yet there's something in me that wants to constantly be a teacher. So I want to get to the place that I've arrived and can settle the tension of constantly having to push. And so in that constant learning, you can't learn without mistakes and failures. You can't learn without walking away going, man, I really screwed that up. Why was I even saying that? Like when I go back and watch that, especially if you've ever been recorded, you go back and go, did I really wear that telling people how to succeed? Did I really say that? So what happens is, and I don't want to get too much on a rabbit trail, but part of the imposter syndrome is it's easy for us to forget the context in which we were talking and leading and coaching and only criticize the content. And so I have to constantly bring myself back to the place that I was like, oh, no, time out. I said that in this context. And if you weren't in that context, or I'm not able to bring you to that context, I'll criticize the content and therefore judge it outside and judge myself outside of what I really should have been doing. Wow. So I think I have to remind myself of that of every day, right? One size doesn't fit all. Don't forget the context, because then the content won't make much sense. Even this, someone jumps on right now and goes like, what are they talking? Context is everything.
Wow. You said so much in that. And I think particularly in this environment that we live in called cancel culture, you guys have heard that term, where, people miss the context of something that you said, or, they have their own preconceived notions about what it is you're saying. And I think that adds a layer to, what the imposter syndrome actually is, right? Because not only do we have the filter of our own criticisms, we have the filter of other people's criticism somewhere in the background too. Is that right? I mean, you guys agree with me? Like, I just think that's a real thing. That's so good. Coach Akila says, I've not applied for an opportunity or chosen not to submit to speak at an event. Thank goodness for your circle who call her out and push me. Yes. You need people that will be like, you need to get your behind over there and do that thing or take that opportunity. We all need that. That's one of the benefits of tribe, right? I absolutely love that, Coach Akila. We have Miss Karen Eber. Hey, Karen Eber. By the way, thank you so much for joining us. And one of these days, we need to have you on here. Karen Eber is a leadership expert extraordinaire. Yes, I've been stalking you. Thank you, Coach Akila. We also need to learn a little bit more of your story. So you guys just wave at leadership expert Karen Eber. She says, I've named her inner critic. Ooh, inner critic. She's just dropped a little wisdom right there. We're gonna talk about that. She says, it allows me to talk back to her and to tell her to be quiet. Come on. There you go again, Magda. Oh, she's named her. Oh my gosh. Okay. Coach Lawrence, I want to hear what you got to say about this. You're in the stream. You said context is key. I want to hear from you in a minute. Tamiko Drummond says it's easy for us not to forget the context, but to criticize the content. One size doesn't fit all. I think you're getting some quotes here, Pastor Andy. This is so good. Okay, Coach Lawrence, I need you to drop a little wisdom here. What's your experience with the imposter syndrome?
Yeah, so I find it always in transition, in levels of not only understanding but progression in life, right? We all pray for success. We all want it really, really badly. But then when it shows up, you're like, me? Well, why me? Like, didn't you just pray for that thing? And crazy enough, right? I fancy myself a true American hero, you know, deployments under my belt, Afghanistan,
Come
Iraq.
on.
Think I was pretty confident, right? But
Yeah.
somebody told me there was this thing called the real world and corporate and all this other stuff. So I took off the uniform.
Wow.
And I had no clear understanding of identity. And so somebody said, well, you could try this. And I was like, okay, I went and tried that. No, that didn't stick. But then, so it's in transition. And so one thing that we have to do, particularly around imposter syndrome, is for me, is you got to set your foundation so that your feet, you're not knocked off.
Come on.
And I had to find out what was true for me. And again, like you had Karen talking about her inner critic, also those gremlins, right? My gremlin was telling me that I was rough around the edges and nobody would accept my version.
Wow.
And so I used to apologize a lot. And then I was like, you know what? That grace thing popped up. And I said, okay, how do I model this for myself? Okay, I know how to hold space for people to be seen, to be heard, to feel valued. Shout out Brene Brown. And the work of feeling connected. And I said, what is that? What is that true story for me?
Right.
And so I began to build that village. And so I always tell life, and my brother always says, if you're doing life alone, you're doing it all wrong. And for me, just the affirmation of my village and affirmations of, you know, who I am, and what I'm supposed to be doing in this world. And once I got clear on that, I had to write it down somewhere, because as you've pointed out, as Pastor Andy pointed out, as everybody's pointed out, it's a daily thing.
Yeah.
Because as you get going, and if your check engine light comes on, it's hard to find that affirmation. It's hard to find that message. And so you got to stay connected. You got to stay plugged in to what's true for you. And so those true stories look like, you know what? I am strong. I am successful. I am a conqueror. I am all of these things. And guess what? I got examples for that. And it's funny enough. I was in prayer, meditation, and said, go look at your resume. And I'm like, I picked up my resume and I started looking at all the stuff that I came through. It was like, that was a thing. That was me. That's me. And so I tell you, tell your story before somebody else does. And so I continue to tell my story to myself, because again, it's encouraging. Not that I've arrived, but guess what? I'm constant progressive progress of leveling up. Yeah. So I love it.
Yeah, my gosh, you said so much in that. I mean, we could stay there all day. But listen, you know, the 3 pillars of my coaching practice are get focused, connect to your purpose, and develop perspective. Perspective is what I call the anchor that holds you when the winds of life and career blow. Perspective. So for some of us, that's our faith. For some of us, it's music. For some of it, it's our family. For some of us, it's, you know, the work that we've built or whatever. Whatever that thing is that reminds you. For some of us, it's music. I'm a big music person. And when I start to feel rocky, I get my jams on. You know, some of us go work out. You know, I know Jeff gets in the kitchen, and, you know, whatever those things are that recenter you, right? And Lawrence, that's a lot of what you're talking about. Like I love what you said about you had to figure out your identity. The reality is you have to figure out your stuff. You have to figure out who you are. You have to figure out what you actually believe and what you stand for. Because if you don't, when the winds of life and career come, when a job failure happens, when you lose a job or get laid off, or when a relationship fails, or somebody posts something on social media, guess what happens? Then you're like, oh, I don't know. Maybe that thing that I heard when I was a kid was right. So we got to clarify that the imposter syndrome is about a psychological pattern of believing that we're a fraud. That's what the imposter syndrome, and actually, depending on who you look at, the coin was termed about 1978. And over the years, people have called it a syndrome, a disease. They call it all kinds of things. I don't really care what you call it. The most important thing is to understand what it is and what to do about it. Kim, Jeff, can you give us some thoughts on your experiences with the imposter syndrome?
Sure, I'll go ahead. You know, Karen, and you and I have talked a lot about this, but when I decided to go out on my own and start my own coaching business, you know, of course I had all those things of why me or who am I, you know, and really started, I love, Lawrence, what you said, you know, started digging deep, understanding my own operating system and figuring out where was this coming from? Why did I feel that way? And to what Karen said, you know, there are these things that maybe we experience when we're younger, and then we get to a point in our life later on and we don't realize that things that were maybe spoken to us or things that we lived through when we were younger affect us when we're older. And so for me, you know, I am my own, or my best client, and I have done a lot of work around this area. And it's really, for me, it was just recognizing that all of those things, love, you know, naming your gremlin, naming your inner critic, because we all have them, and then just, you know, hearing them out, but telling them, no, you're wrong. You know, all of those things that I believed in about myself, they're not right. And I have a story to tell. I have a gift that I can bring that no one else can bring to the table. There are lots of people who do what I do, but I come about it from an angle that no one else has. And so I think we need to recognize that, you know, we have something to bring that no one else can bring. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just what can I bring to the table? How can I take my experiences and turn it into something that's valuable to others? So, yeah, that's what I have to say about it.
You've said a lot. I absolutely love this, the way that you frame this. And I wrote it down because I think it's so powerful. And I think this is one of our first power plays that we'll call out. Remember that you have a story to tell. And, you know, when I say that to people in a coaching context, oftentimes people will say, well, no, I don't. I haven't done this, but, right? Like we all do it. We hear people introduce themselves. Well, I'm only a housewife, or I only got my college degree, or whatever. And I go back to this thing that I always say, if you have a pulse, you have a purpose. That means that your story has value. My dad, who is 91 years young, traveled all over the world, served with Colin Powell in the United States Army, retired a full bird colonel, graduated from Andover Newton Theological Seminary. I mean, the man's a boss, okay? And he's 91 and he's still preaching. I mean, he could recite the alphabet and I'd want to hear what he has to say. But the reality is that one day, this was years ago, we were talking, just having a father-daughter chat, and he said, you know, I just wish I always wanted a big church. And I remember just being gobsmacked by that. Do y'all know what gobsmacked means? I mean, I was just like, what? What are you saying? Are you kidding me? I mean, this man has had some of the most amazing experiences, but there was a longing in his heart that made him kind of doubt, because he had not had that achievement. He had this thing set in his head. He felt like maybe he wasn't good enough. Maybe he didn't deserve all of what he had. And so I just think this understanding that the story that you have, the journey that you've walked, the experiences that you have. I think about Pastor Andy. I mean, you know, this guy has like had some of the most incredible experiences, and his story is so unique. And in fact, when I saw his story, I wanted to take him around the country, didn't I, Pastor Andy? I was like, okay, we're doing this. I was his agent, and we're getting ready to do this. So anyway, Jeff, talk to us a little bit about your experience with the imposter syndrome.
Absolutely. So I actually showed, Karen and Kim probably recognize this, but I showed this on one of our other groups the other day. I actually I pretended to toss it out, but I still have it sitting here. I'm not going to wear it anymore because I don't want to think about it too much. But Um, it's something I've been dealing with a lot, especially in the last year in my profession, at the company I work for, but also my personal life. And the way I've sort of described it before is that whole idea of the alter ego. I realized that the alter ego for me was, what drove the whole idea of imposter syndrome for me personally was I had been putting on a face, almost like, I'm not trying to reference Superman necessarily, but kind of putting on that face when I would show up at work. And the metaphor, or the physical manifestation for it for me was putting on a sport coat. I own one sport coat. That's it. And I would try to like shape it up as much as I could when I would go into meetings, because I realized what was happening is I would show up to these things for work, whatever, and I'd put my sport coat on or whatever, and I would show up and I'd feel like, okay, I'm part of this. And as soon as I got back to my car, I was like, get this stuff off of me. And it took me until about a year ago to realize I was doing that because that's literally not who I am. I'm putting some, window dressing on myself. And I'm so frustrated a lot of the times simply because I'm preventing myself from being myself. And that is what allowed me, I think, finally to sort of just let go. When I finally was able to put that aside, or at least recognize that, put that aside so that I could prepare for the role that I'm in now. And probably more importantly, prepare for what I want to do next, and recognize that I want to do a lot more than the one position the one title that I have today. And I think when I've been talking to people, not just at work, but outside of my company, who want to coach or mentor or whatever term you want to use for it, and just have a conversation, it kind of really helped me realize that they're coming to me asking for input, because whether I acknowledge it or not, I've worked at some bigger companies and I have some experiences they've never had before, and they don't understand it, and they're looking for someone to give them some input on those things. I'll tell you one brief story that I just actually remember while I was sitting here listening to everybody else kind of wax poetic about really, really interesting things I've never experienced before. Years ago, were the first big company that I worked for, that I kind of kicked off my professional IT career in. I had a director that I worked for, and he had us all fill out a survey. And one of the questions in the survey was something just so he could get to know everybody. One question was, do you have a best friend at work? And I didn't really think about it until here very recently. And it made me realize that at the time I said no. And I've actually done that for employees of my own, like I've sent out to in the past 15 years. And I've asked, and most of the time people say no, they haven't. And it wasn't until recently I realized that not having a best friend at work, it's not the best friend piece that's the imposter piece. It's if you're not able to be yourself, or if you're in a culture around people that you don't feel like you can be exactly who you are and bring whatever passions you experience on your daily life into whatever you do professionally, you're never going to be yourself. You're always going to be acting like an imposter, which is going to prevent other people from wanting to build a genuine relationship with you. And that's likely going to have so many trickle down negative effects in your life, because we're social animals. We feed off, whether you admit it or not, we feed off the relationships we have with other people. And if you're physically preventing yourself from exposing that person to everybody else, you're never going to have the quality relationships you want. I think it ends up having the whole idea of imposter syndrome ends up having this wide set of ramifications that we just don't ever really consider because of simple things like I'm just not opening myself up to others.
Y'all are just killing me right now. Like we could have whole sessions on everything that you just said, Jeff. This question about, do you have a best friend at work, and the fact that, dealing with the imposter syndrome. And let me clarify that it's not dealing with the imposter syndrome, because we all deal with it. We can talk about kind of the human origins of why that is. But more importantly, if we allow the imposter syndrome to hijack, right, our brains, if we allow the imposter syndrome to prevent us from moving forward, taking risks, that's really where it begins to have, like you said, that wide-reaching impact. I'm so glad that you said that. So the first thing is to know, for everybody watching this live stream, either you're in here right now or you're watching it on replay, is everybody deals with the imposter syndrome at some point, right? And again, it's important to remember that the context of the imposter syndrome is a repeated mental habit that says, I don't deserve to be here, right? I've seen any number of quotes from people, from Maya Angelou to, famous sports stars, who said, one day somebody's going to figure out that I don't deserve to be here. Viola Davis, one of the most amazing actors of our time, said that she felt like as she was getting awards and being assigned to these amazing film projects, that people were going to figure out that she was a fraud, right? That she didn't deserve. Viola Davis? Are you kidding me? Like, who thinks that kind of thing? Nobody thinks that kind of thing. And yet we all deal with it. And so this morning, I just want to rip it off. Okay. We all deal with the imposter syndrome. It's what we do with it that matters. We have Mr. Philip Williams in the house. Hey, Philip. So glad to have you in here, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. He says the imposter syndrome can be a huge self-limiting pattern, can I get an amen, that destroys our own owner's manual. Woo! I'm just going to leave that right there. That was deep. Lawrence, is Philip part of your tribe?
I am so excited to say yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, he is.
I need to meet Mr. Williams. Okay. Good morning. we need to get him on a show. Anyway, so yeah, the imposter syndrome, we all deal with it. The reality is we got to figure out what it is we do about it, how it is we push forward. Now, the imposter syndrome, that repeated pattern, we all have times when we're like, I'm just not feeling it today or whatever. But it's the syndrome, it's the repeated and consistent nature of it, right? That holds us back. It says, I really don't deserve to be here. Now, the imposter syndrome is different than feeling, having self-loathing, okay? Need to be really clear here. So self-loathing is a much deeper, darker kind of thing. And let me just say this, that if you are struggling, if imposter syndrome is something that keeps you stuck or frozen, then I want to encourage you to reach out, get help, connect with people that love and respect you. Everybody on this circle right here, on this panel, they're part of my board of directors. I call them when I need help, when I need support, when I need, just somebody to help me process thoughts. And the reality is, yeah, even really successful people struggle with the imposter syndrome. So good. Okay, I got to move on or I'm going to get stuck. I firmly believe that there are ways to prevent the imposter syndrome, right? We have it and we know that it exists, but I think there are things that we can do to prevent or to quiet the imposter syndrome. One of the things I tell my clients all the time is they're like, I got to get over like feeling like I'm not good enough. And I tell my clients to not waste their energy trying to make the imposter syndrome just completely disappear. I think, this is just me, I think that is like a futile thing, right? Because once you realize that the imposter syndrome is something everybody struggles with, then it kind of takes the pressure off. But the next step is to realize that sometimes we just need to put the imposter syndrome in its place. Come on, that was good. We need to put it in its place, right? You know what? I don't need you right now. I think it was Coach Karen Eber who said that she gives the imposter syndrome a name. I also saw some comments in here from the amazing Linda Givens of Danny Lynn. If y'all don't know Danny Lynn, D-A-N-I, I think I got that right. Yeah, D-A-N-I, next word, L-I-N. She is a fashion designer. She's an entrepreneur, a wife and a mom, and an experienced business executive. I'm going to see if I can find what she said. Yeah, she says, I've also named it the imposter syndrome for her. She's named it my representative. And she has a name who shows up in new environments. Come on, this is really good. She's identified where the imposter syndrome shows up. We all have places, right, where the imposter syndrome rears its head, right? Where maybe it screams louder than normal. Linda, that was so good. So it shows up in new environments and settings to confirm that it's a safe place. The danger is staying there. Ooh, we dropped another little thing of wisdom here. Okay. There are things we can do to overcome the imposter syndrome. For those of you that are in the live stream, thank you so much for being in here. Listen, drop us a question. If you've got questions, or maybe you've got an insight on dealing with the imposter syndrome, we want to hear from you, right? This is not something that's just limited to this group of experts. Everybody deals with the imposter syndrome. What is it that works for you in overcoming the imposter syndrome? Coach Kim Dudash, I'm going to ask you to pop in on this one. Tell us, what are some of the things that you do, or some of the things you might recommend to our audience in terms of dealing with the imposter syndrome?
Well, there's there's a little simple exercise that I do that I recommend for my clients, and that is really taking some time, spend with yourself to ask yourself what I call the 5 whys. So, if you find yourself in a situation where you feel the imposter syndrome rearing its ugly head, like you said, which it does, it's to take a moment to ask yourself, what am I experiencing? What am I feeling? What's going on inside of me? And ask yourself that first why. And then once you've identified that why, then ask the second layer of why. And so for me, it's really going through that system of whys until I get to the core reason I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing. And what I find is it usually stems from something that is sometimes it can be so simple, and you're like, well, gosh, I don't even know why I'm feeling that way. That doesn't really exist. So it's really asking yourself why until you get to the really core issue, and you can understand, where it's coming from. And then, and like I said, it's naming your inner critic, right? It's saying, no, that's not true. You need to shut up. It's really trying to identify what is the core. And many times what I find with myself and with my clients is that it's really something that's not even real, that's not even true. So it's separating reality from this perception, right? Yeah. And really coming down to what's the reality of the situation. And then, like we've all said earlier, we all have something to bring that no one else can. So and what Pastor Andy said, we judge ourselves we judge others by their highlight reel, and we judge ourselves based on the whole story.
Wow.
So I think context is huge.
So good. So good. Pastor Andy, I can see something on you right there. Come on, talk to us a little bit about what are the ways that we can learn to silence or quiet that imposter syndrome so we can make progress, move forward, take risks.
Yeah, I think one of the major challenges for me is focus, and it's not focus like remove all the distractions. It's the more I focus on myself, it becomes an endless abyss that can never be resolved. So one of the challenges I think all humanity faces is that we're not on this earth for our own goodwill and pleasure. We have to make sure that we are helping people move from enlightenment, success, goals, move down the path. So I know for me, I had an opportunity to speak on a platform that, one, I recognized I wasn't equipped in my experience to. Two, the audience were people that were way outside of my circle of experience. And number three is I almost felt like the individual that invited me didn't really know who I was. And so here's this big opportunity. It's a platform full of really successful leaders that if you talk about the financial impact they make, if you talk about the social impact they make, and here I am asked to come and give some sort of encouragement to them or challenge. And so for weeks I wrestled with this. I tried to reinvent myself. That doesn't work because I'm stuck with myself. If I show up anywhere other than with me, then I'm not going to be able to do what I've been invited to do. And so I wrestled. And I'll tell you, one of the things, I love the idea of a village. I love the idea of a tribe. For me, my wife plays a major role in that. And so I remember 2 days before I was supposed to speak, probably one of the largest platforms I've ever spoken on. And I simply told my
Yeah.
wife, you know, when we get real vulnerable and we get real raw, we kind of tell on ourselves. And I told her, I said, I'm just going to tell them something came up and I can't speak, right? It's just as easy, right? It's easy for me to sink back into environments where I feel comfortable. And therefore, if I'm comfortable, and where the focus was is right here. I was focusing on me. And she just looked at me. She said, well, if you really think that's the thing to do, I guess do it. But do you think they invited you to come speak because of who you are or who you could help them to become? And it shifted something for me, because the fact of the matter is the imposter syndrome is a deceitful invitation to be more selfish than you've ever been before, instead of coming and helping people grow. See, it wasn't about me. It was about helping the people I was going to encounter get unstuck. And that fact, then my research shouldn't have been focused on how to show up better. My research should have been all about helping them go further and becoming better. And if I've really done my job, people won't be talking about me when I leave. They will be succeeding and becoming more who they were created to be.
Come on. That's good.
So I think it's the antithesis of what we think sometimes. We think, I've got to challenge myself. I got to do that. No, I think you should just abandon the focus on yourself. And let's be honest, we're all on the narcissist continuum somewhere. We just kind of keep that enemy at bay as best we can. And the only way to get rid of that is to, I'm going to say it, betray myself. That's something we don't want to do. And then until we start betraying ourselves and realize I actually exist for your betterment, not for you to make me feel better. So.
Mic drop. We could just wrap it up there, but we got so much more to say here. Oh my gosh. When I'm so focused on me, right? And my issues, my story, my problems, when I look at my story or my invitation to speak or my, ability to apply for a job, I look at my story from my lens. But when I look at what I could bring, how I could help, right? It begins to change. It somehow energizes our ability to push past it. Listen to me. Any one of these power plays that we're talking about does not make the imposter syndrome go away. It just puts it in its place. Come on, that's good. Because so often, Coach Akila said it, and how many of you have done this? Come on, raise your hand. This is confession time. How many of you have avoided applying for a job, speaking to somebody you thought was cute or whatever, for those of you non-married folks, or maybe in a prior life when you met your sweetness, whatever. How many of you avoided doing something because you said, oh no, I couldn't do that. I'm not qualified. I'm a fraud. I'm not as confident as everybody thinks I am. Come on. Yeah. I mean, Pastor Andy just put it out there. He was like, look, I had this amazing opportunity, and he was going to miss the opportunity because he was wrapped up in his own story. Come on. Here's a power play for you to get past the imposter syndrome. Get out of your story. Show up. Come on, that's worth the price of admission right there. Wait a minute, this is free. Okay. I'm just saying, sometimes you got to push past the imposter syndrome and you got to put it in your place. And let me tell you something else. I'm not going to preach, but I'm just going to go in for just a minute here, okay? Some of you who are watching this live stream, you're in the midst of a pandemic. You've had the butterflies scared out of you, and you are doubting yourself. You're repeating the stories in your head that scare you the most. You're sitting with your demons and your fears. And I just came this morning to speak life to you and to curse that thing that is trying to get in your head to say, you know what? You're not worth it. You know what? You can't do it. You can do it. If you have a pulse, you have a purpose. I think we need to get t-shirts made. I'm just saying. Jeff Bull, what do you think?
nothing nearly as poetic as what Andy just said. I'll just say, but I'm kind of sitting here like cooking on that a little bit and just realizing how quickly the imposter syndrome, how easily it can make you feel comfortable. Like, it's fine. Just keep doing what you're doing. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, oh, that thing you were looking at, it's, you could go do that, but just, this is just easy. So you've been doing this already, right? It's no big deal. And it makes you feel just kind of like in this little safe, this little like weighted blanket of, I'm just going to sit back here and kind of chill. Right. It's cool. One of the tricks I like to use, and I've kind of been a big geek for like goal planning and time management, really, because a few years ago, my wife and I sat down and did this whole goal planning exercise. And it was the first time I'd ever done that, like in a really meaningful way. What's been helping me, and I go back to it because I lose track of it every now and again, or I lose the path a bit. Yeah. Is I try to plan my week, plan my days in a physical day planner, because I really like to focus on that rhythm, not work-life balance, but the actual rhythm in your life and how you create that rhythm, because it forces the longer period of time. And what's nice is it's a simple thing, but if you actually do fill out some kind of day plan or week plan, to be able to go back at the end of the week, just real quickly and look and say, what did I actually write down at the beginning, to see those things. They don't have to be big, huge projects. They don't have to be big, huge accomplishments, but just to see what you did throughout the week can really help remind you that you're not an imposter. Like, you were able to accomplish things. And even for a minute sitting back, and this is what's helped me, when someone has reached out and said, hey, I have a question for you on something. Recently, it's been a lot of video because I've been doing more video. And I've had people at work reach out to me, asking me questions. And what's helped is sitting back going, I've had 3 or 4 people that I don't know from other parts of the US who someone has told them, oh, you need to go call Jeff. And so they reach out to me. And in the moment, I feel that little like dopamine hit from somebody reaching out to me going like, Jeff, I need you. And like, oh, all right. I've been needed. But then 4 days later, you completely forget about that because you get back in your own head again. And to remember that even for a moment, it's like, oh, wow, that person was told to reach out to me, not Jeff Bull, but because I represent something that they don't have yet and they're trying to figure out. Mm-hmm. And for me, at least, it really helps because it's a little thing, but it's like, you can just go back and look at that for a moment and say, oh, I did have an impact. I did do something that wasn't, as Andy said, it's completely selfish. Like, somebody asked for help and yeah, absolutely. Here's an answer to your question. It may seem small to you, but it's not to get too overly existential, but it's sort of that like rock dropping in the lake. Like, it's a little thing, but it has a massive set of ripples that you can't be aware of yet, but it's going to have impact. It will.
Yeah. I love this. It goes back to, and I hate to keep saying it, but if you have a pulse, you have a purpose, right? So when I'm standing in the room, I may not understand why I'm in the room, but I'm in the room. I can't tell you as an entrepreneur how many times very recently, like a few weeks ago, I tried to talk myself out of an opportunity. Somebody came to me and they said, hey, Karen, we want you to speak to us about this, that, and the other. And I said, oh, I think there's somebody else who's actually more of an expert. It's literally what I said. It came out of my mouth. There's somebody who's more of an expert. Now they asked me. Okay. And I said, there's somebody who's more of an expert. That's making my eyelashes fall off. I'm just saying. And when I go back and think about it now, like, I nearly talked myself out of this world-class opportunity where I could have been that pebble in some way, shape, fashion, or form in that moment, right? That was an opportunity for me to be a rock. It doesn't mean I'm every rock. It just means I'm a rock, right? Jeff, I love what you're thinking about right now in terms of helping people in the Bay Area, help tech professionals in the Bay Area. I love the fact that this is your pebble. This is your rock to be able to make an impact. And here's what I know. I mean, we've got Coach Lawrence Henderson. We've got Coach Kim Dudash. Andy does some coaching as well. I know Jeff is doing some coaching. There's room for everybody. So I think a lot of times in our heads, we've convinced ourselves, oh my gosh, there's not enough room for me. So don't worry about it. Like, let the other person have the opportunity. But we have to get outside of that, right? Whether it comes to doing a live stream, right? Jeff and Kim know this really well. The fact that somebody else has talked about it is irrelevant. The fact that you've got something unique to say is relevant, right? Because there's going to be somebody that is exactly for you. Not everybody's going to be on the Monday Morning Jumpstart. Some people are going to be over watching a different live stream, right? If Coach Tamiko Drummond, who has a wicked awesome podcast called Cup of Resilience, y'all need to look it up. It is amazing. If she just kind of hid because I was doing this live stream, we wouldn't have her brilliance. Okay, I'm going to leave that there. I'm sorry. I just got a little bit carried away. All right. We are like, I could go all day. Like, this is an all day workshop for real. But I just want to give you guys an opportunity. Let's see. I want to jump into the comments. Y'all are just chatting it up. I love it. Coach Karen Eber says, the other thing to ask ourselves is, what am I getting from this and what do I need? Ooh, that's good. We repeat behaviors because we're getting something from them. That's right. That's what Jeff was talking about, right? It's kind of that kick of dopamine that we get when we stay safe. It's like, okay, I'm safe for the moment. This is good. We get something that says, hey, come outside of that. And then it becomes fear. It kind of changes on us. She says, we repeat behaviors because we're getting something from them. It's a great chance to use Kim's suggestion of the whys to figure it out. I love it. Absolutely amazing. Okay. As we get ready to wrap it up, there's some talk about t-shirts. So true story, we have some, every year we do a t-shirt, and we now have a vintage collection. We've been around long. We've been around 7 years. We have a vintage collection. Those are going to be going up on our website. That helps facilitate events just like this. But our next t-shirt is coming out in honor of our guys. Okay, we're going to be doing a whole day. We're going to do Monday morning Jumpstart in the morning, and we're going to be doing a private masterclass for our guys. So often these kinds of environments focus on the women, right? What do you do in quarantine with the kids? How are you feeling? Are you taking care of yourself and all that sort of a thing? And that usually has kind of a feminine spin to it. We want to go deep with the guys. And so Pastor Andy Smith is going to be helping me lead this. These two guys are also going to be helping me lead this. They didn't know that. So I'm just kind of, but we're going to do a Monday morning Jumpstart in the next couple of weeks just for the guys. And then we're going to do a private masterclass for the guys. And so I'm super excited, but I wanted to do something special for them. I figured, candles and makeup and sparkly planners would probably, not land well. So I'm like, well, what can we do for our guys? And so we have a young man by the name of George Falker, who is the owner. He's otherwise known as 1080G. Y'all need to look him up. He's got an amazing podcast, but he is also a brand specialist and marketer and all sorts of things. He's working on our t-shirts right now. They are sports shirts. So, like the kind you work out in with the special, wavy material that lets you know how much I work out. Anyway, whatever you call those things. So all of my presenters are getting a t-shirt. All my guys are getting a t-shirt. And yes, we have, because I know some of my guys are super tall. We've got a great size selection. Those are going to go up on the website as well. We want you to support this effort. And when we get ready to do this, we want you to buy some shirts for your guys. I'm just saying. So you'll see those go up on the website and on social media and whatnot. But anyway, all right. We've talked about a lot and we could go on, but I really want to wrap this up as we kind of give people some things to think about when it comes to the imposter syndrome. So I just want my panel just to chime in a little bit on this. Kim, I'm going to ask you to start. Just one thing that maybe you'd leave with this amazing audience on the imposter syndrome.
Well, there is a great resource that I would recommend. It's called The 7 Laws of Enough.
Ooh.
And it is about this very, very topic. And we all seem to come from a core belief that there's scarcity, right? That there's not enough to go around, and that I don't have anything new to add, or that, like you said, there's someone else who is more of an expert in this than I am. But there is enough. There's an abundance in this earth for everyone, right? And we all have a place. So I think what I would leave with is just remember that you bring something to the world that no one else can bring. And if you don't bring it, it will be lost, right? There's someone out there that you were made to connect with. There's a group of people that you were meant to inspire. And I love what Pastor Andy said. If we don't follow through, that's the ultimate act of selfishness. There is something that we bring that no one else can bring.
Oh my gosh, so beautifully said, Kim. I spoke some years ago, this was probably 4 years ago now, in an environment that I felt, I did very much feel like a fraud. I was asked to deliver some content and it was something new for me, but I did it. And afterwards, I had a line of people waiting to speak to me. And I'm like, okay, either they're going to cuss at me and tell me never to come back, or they're going to ask me a question that I don't know the answer to. And then they're really going to figure out that I'm a fraud. Now, mind you, this was after the thing was done, but there they were. So I talked to everybody, got amazing feedback. Thank you so much. That was so great. I took away so many good tips. And the very last person in the line, she waited until everybody left. And she walked up to me, tears coming down her face. And she said, I just wanted to tell you how much your story meant to me. She said, I've always been hiding. I never thought anybody would understand me until I heard your story. This was at a corporate event, you guys. What Kim just said is absolutely rock solid. You can take it to the bank. There's somebody who needs to hear your story. Kim, thank you for that wisdom. And thank you for joining us this morning. There's more to come with the two of us, so I'm just saying.
Yes. Karen, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this. I'm energized every Monday morning, so.
Yay. Thank you so much. Jeff, why don't you give us just kind of some parting thoughts on imposter syndrome?
Absolutely. I think the words that popped in my head are, you got to be you in this world. And it's tough. It's really tough to not get completely inwardly focused, especially right now when you're at home all of the time, or a much larger portion of the time. I professionally work in sales now. So even though I manage a team, they're the people who do the things. I just support them. I am at customer meetings, or I'm talking to customers a lot. So it's really easy now that I'm sitting in this shed that I built for myself to really think in this little echo chamber, this physical echo chamber that I kind of built for myself. It's really easy to live in your own head. There's actually a podcast I wanted to reference for everybody that I got into recently by somebody I've heard before. His name is Adam Grant. He's a psychologist at the University of Pennsylvania. He runs I think it's the Wharton People Analytics group. He had an episode of his show he has a podcast called Work Life that's produced by TED, an episode called "We Don't Have to Fight Loneliness Alone." Fight loneliness alone. I don't know. Can't talk today. Anyway, I'm tired. But it was fantastic because it talks a lot about feeling like we're in our own little world, even at work, amongst so many other people. And the idea of like getting rid of virtual happy hours or happy hours in general, and spending more time actually building a true human connection with somebody else on something that is important to you. It helps so much, I think, with the imposter syndrome idea, because it lets you actually connect with another person and realize that the impact that you have is an impact that they can have. And it's kind of hard to explain, but really, at least for me, it kind of inspired me to think about the things I can help other people with or be a part of with other people. And especially as a leader, being able to encourage that amongst the people that work for me and give them a chance to organically build those relationships, I think can really help.
Wow. Thank you so much. And thank you for that podcast. Looks like Sarah's put it in the stream. I love awesome. All of this sharing and the ideas that you're bringing forth, Jeff. We appreciate you so much joining us at the crack of dawn. And I'm excited to see more from you. I'm just saying.
I know.
I'm going to be that one tapping you on your shoulder. Hey, what are you doing?
I'm picking up
that?
what you're laying down.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much. Coach Lawrence Henderson, maybe a few thoughts.
Yes. So there are a couple tools that leaders have, their words and their behaviors. And one of the things that I've begun to do in my life is create and manufacture little wins that are true for me. And I always ask myself this question: is what I'm doing serving me? Is it serving my purpose? Is it serving the mission and vision that I've been called to? Similar to some of the things you all said is in these moments, those behaviors of doing, right? Actions over ideas always win. And then again, keeping them close, again, telling yourself, repeating those things that are true for you over and over again. So again, words, behaviors, make them connect and make them true for you.
Amazing. So good. Thank you for joining us this morning as well. Super excited for all that's coming for you. And I think I've heard from everybody except the amazing Pastor Andy Smith. Some final comments.
Hey, I think one piece of counsel I would say for all of us to consider is think impact, not impress. When I think impact, I think about you. When I think about impressing, I think about me. So the way to overcome, I think, every day in anything I face to keep the imposter syndrome at bay is, will this have an impact or will this just be impressive? If it's just impressive, it's not really worth doing because then it's self-fulfilling. But if it's going to have an impact, then people will be transformed. So I say impact,
good,
not impress.
You guys. Too many nuggets to summarize in one, but I want to leave you with a few thoughts. Here's the first thing. Get clear about your why and your what, right? This is a huge power play, and I think Coach Kim Dudash really nailed this well, right? Ask yourself some questions. When you've got that kind of voice coming up that's saying, you're a fraud, you shouldn't be here, remember what happened last time, all of those things, ask yourself this question: how true is it that I don't deserve to be here? How true is it that I don't have what I need to contribute here? Ask yourself the powerful questions. Coach Lawrence, we need to do a whole session on self-coaching. Anybody in for that? Okay, self-coaching. Like, that is a wiener. Check yourself. Ask yourself those powerful questions. Here's one. Trust yourself. Trust yourself. You know, you look in the mirror and there you are. So you're kind of stuck with yourself. I think Pastor Andy mentioned this earlier, right? It's so much more fun to trust yourself. I have countless stories where I did actually doubt myself or felt like a fraud, didn't feel like I deserved to be in the room or that I should be in the room. But I also have countless stories of where I trusted the fire within my belly. We would not be having this conversation, and I would not be 7 years in and growing towards major strategic financial goals if I had listened to the guy who saw my original business plan and said, and I quote, "This is the most convoluted thing I've ever heard." This wasn't 1960, booze. This was 7 years ago. Okay. He said, and this was in a mentoring program. I'm not going to mention which one, but I handed him my business plan. And that's what he said to me. I said, "Thank you very much." I left the office, and the secretary on my way out said to me, "So how did it go? And what did you think?" And I turned to her and I said, "You know what? I learned some very important things. And the first of which is I need to trust myself." And I walked out. Trust yourself. That's wisdom. That's good. Here we go. Here's some more. Hold on. I just lost my notes here. What happened? Anyway, here's the other thing. Take care of yourself. The imposter syndrome rages when you don't feel well, when you're exhausted. Come on, y'all. This is good. When you are feeling, when you've allowed fear to repeat itself. Did you know that you will become what you repeat? You will become what you practice. If you let that message play in your head over and over and over again, and you don't do anything to buffer it, guess what? You'll succumb to that imposter syndrome. Too much to go on. This is good stuff, y'all. Philip Williams says he still asks himself, what if it works out exactly as you want it to? Oh my gosh. Consider that maybe whatever it is you're considering might work out. Y'all, this has been amazing. I want to thank Pastor Andy Smith, Coach Kim Dudash, Lawrence Henderson, Jeff Bull. Real quickly, Coach Kim Dudash, where can people find you?
Well, you can, I have a website, dudashexecutivecoaching.com, or you can find me on social media. I have a business page, Dudash Executive Coaching, Instagram, Coach Kim Dudash. So I'd love to hear from you.
And we also want to hear where we can get grass-fed beef and pork. I'm just saying.
Oh, yeah. So grass-fed beef and pork, you can, we have a website, dudashfarms.com. We also have a business page. Dudash Farms is our social media page. And I will say, you talk about imposter syndrome, one thing that I would love to invite you guys to do. So one of the things that I did at this season is I actually started a Facebook Live on Friday nights at 6:15 where we prepare a meal with our products. And y'all, I'm not a chef, so talk about serious imposter syndrome. But just like we've talked about, I did it anyway because our goal is to educate and provide for our community. So we just got to step out there and do it, right? So
it's amazing, you guys. And they have a following, I'm just saying. So every Friday at 6:45, right, Kim?
6:15.
No,
6:45. You're right, Karen. Lord, 6:45, y'all.
Oh, it is 6:45. Okay.
It is 6:45.
Lawrence Henderson, where can we find you?
Yes, website www.bossconsultingllc.net. Also, social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Boss Lab, BOSSLLAB. And LinkedIn, my full government name, Lawrence E. Henderson Jr. That's where I'm at on LinkedIn.
Awesome. It's good to have you, man. Jeff, where can we find you, buddy?
Jeff Bull Tech is my jeffbulltech.com is my main website. And then you can find me on all the social medias at Jeff Bull Tech. Same thing on YouTube. YouTube is where I put most of my content right now. So just search Jeff Bull, TECH on YouTube.
I want everybody to go and follow Jeff on YouTube right this moment. Go follow him. He is just like seriously the most interesting guy. Pastor Andy Smith, where can we find you?
Hey, yeah, I'm on social media, on Facebook and Instagram. You'll find me there, andrew.b.smith. That's where you can find me. And then kennesaw.influencers.church. You'll see my ugly mug there show up. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Well, you guys go check out our website, rockyourvision.net. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, it's Rock Your Vision Women. That's actually going to be changing because, as you can see, we have a growing male presence, and we love it. We're here for it. We love our guys. Yes, we do. And then on IG, you can find us at Rock Your Vision, or you can find me at Tap Coach K for all my executive coaching stuff. Listen to me very carefully. You have more options than you realize. You do not have to allow the imposter syndrome to run you. It may never go away, but you can put it in your place. And this is the place that we try to do that every single week. Quarantine or no quarantine, the reality is it's always going to be something on your heels. So listen, why not figure out how to do life on your own terms? That's what we do right here in the Rock Your Vision community. Thank you so much for joining me for Monday Morning Jumpstart. You've got a week to go slay. Go do it. Guest panels, hold on right there. Don't hang up yet. All right, everybody, signing off. We'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.